Spray your board with a small amount of water. It helps to keep your clay soft and moist. Holding the ball of clay gently, strike it with your other cupped hand to make it more rounded if needed. Hold the clay gently with your hands. You don't need to clutch the clay with heavy pressure. By squeezing the clay too hard, you will deform its shape unintentionally, making it impossible to transform it into a cube shape. Roll the clay from side to side and tap it gently on your board. You don't need to slam the clay on your board, as it will deform your clay in ways you don't want it to. Repeat the process of rolling and tapping the clay on each side until you form a cube. Usually a pinch pot is created by forming a ball out of clay, creating an opening in the middle with your thumb and pinching and stretching the ball to change its shape. The vessel shape we are aiming to create will be created using a different method. By using this method, our vessel will be much taller in height and less wide than a usual, more rounded, ball-shaped pinch pot. Push down with your thumbs in the middle of your cube. Do not push your thumb all the way down to the bottom of your pinch pot and make a hole in it. Pull the clay up with your index fingers. This will make the base more rounded and less square shaped. To flatten the top of your pinch pot, gently tap it on the wooden board. If needed, gently roll the pinch pot back and forth on the board to make the sides more rounded. The tops of both pinch pots need to be flat so they can be joined later. The thickness of the walls of your pinch pot should be the same thickness as your thumb. You will need to create another pinch pot using the same forming techniques. You will need to create a second pinch pot the same size as your first. Your second pinch pot will be the top of your vessel's body. For two halves of a pot to join smoothly, they need to be flat, level, and the same width. The next techniques we will be learning are slipping, scoring, and marrying. To score clay, you will need any modelling tool that can make marks. Using the tool you have been given, score the areas using the cross-hatching method. When scoring clay, more marks are better than less. Once your shape has been scored, you need to slip it. When you are slipping, wetter is better. This means adding a bit of slurry onto the scoring to act as a glue. The more water between the clay particles, the more they can slide around and intermingle when clay pieces are next to each other, and the softer and plastic the clay is, making it easier to physically blend clay pieces into one another. Wriggle the pieces together to make them join more securely. Using a modelling tool, scrape the clay downwards to make sure both pieces are firmly joined together on the outside. After, use a tool and your fingers to blend the clay together and smooth the rough texture. After you have created your pinch pots, you will need to score your initials and class into the base of your join vessels. If you don't put your initials at the bottom of your pinch pots, it might get lost among other students' work. Next, you will need to spray your board so it's ready to make coils on. Using gentle, even squeezing, form your clay into a large, round sausage shape with your hands. The firmer the clay, the harder you need to squeeze. If your hands are becoming dry, spray a small amount of water on them. A combination of dry hands and a dry board will dry your clay out, making it harder to roll it into a coil. Roll the clay gently using the full length of your hands from your fingertips to the bottom of the palm of your hands. Roll it forwards and backwards underneath your hands, making sure the clay makes a complete 360-degree rotation. As you move your hands further apart from each other as you are rolling, the coil will become longer as you stretch the clay. Harder than it may initially look, making an even, hand-rolled coil is a skill. Uneven pressure when rolling can result in thin sections appearing along the length or a flattened shape. It is possible to fix mistakes in rolled out coils by reworking the section by hand. To fix a section that is too thick, use one hand and focus on rolling the coil to push the clay outwards, making it longer and thinner. Aim to make your coil as thick as your thumb in every area. I needed to make 3 coils. You should aim to make 2 or 3 coils for your pot. When all the coils are formed, it is a good idea to cover them with a sheet of plastic to stop them from hardening. Place the coils on top of your vessel, trying to make it the same length as the circumference as the hole you want to create. With a potter's knife, cut off the excess length, making a diagonal cut to increase the surface area of the join. Using a sharp clay tool, score a line that shows exactly where your vessel opening will be. Cut out the holes slowly, ensuring the excess clay is removed and it doesn't fall into the vessel. Use a wet finger to smooth the edges of the opening you have created. Use a potter's needle to score cross hatches and use the slip to join both ends together, creating a ring shape. Smooth over the inside and outside of your ring with a wet finger. Using a potter's needle or any sharp clay tool, score where you would need to add joining slip. Once the tall of your vessel and coiled ring have been scored, you need to add slip to them. When you're ready, firmly press the pieces together. Wriggle the pieces together to get them to join more securely. Roll out a small, tiny, thin coil. To reinforce the joins and for neatness, fill small gaps with this tiny coil. Use a modelling tool to push the little roll of clay into the join and then smooth it over. It is important for this coil and the one on top of the opening to be well joined and reinforced, as they will bear the entire weight of the vessel's neck. By doing this, we can also make the thickness of the vessel more uniform, which helps it to be stronger and dry at a more even rate. Next, I added another coil to make my neck longer, always remembering to use smaller pieces of clay to fill the gaps between each coil layer and smoothing the inside and outside of the neck. To create a neck that becomes wider the taller it gets, I needed to build up curved edges. Rather than making the next coil the same width as the one below it, I needed to make it wider. Rather than placing each coil directly on top of each other, I made sure that the coils made the shape flare outwards. By adding 4 small coils with gaps in between them, I was able to make the rim intentionally more uneven. Using smaller pieces of clay, I filled out any gaps in the rim of the vessel. The most intricate designs can be achieved by joining any soft or leather hard pieces of clay together with a little bit of water or joining slip and some scoring. These pieces must be made in the same clay as the main piece, but can also be formed in many ways. First, I prepared several balls of clay. Using a potter's knife, I sliced the clay ball down the middle to create 2 semicircles. Using the potter's knife, lightly score where you know which area will need to be scored using the cross-hatching method. Once your shape has been scored, you need to slip it. To secure all my dots to my sculpture, I reinforce the joins by filling gaps with tiny pieces of clay and blending them together with a tool or my finger. To figure out what I wanted my pattern to look like, I made all my dots and placed them into position before attaching them.